Hello, everyone. Today I want to talk about pronouns and how they relate to inflection within Hindi. I don't want to cover any specific details or anything that really needs to be memorized today. I just want to talk about the basic concept of inflection, what it is, how we use it in English, and also how we will be using it in Hindi. Um, Inflection is a feature of almost all languages. We have it in English to a very small degree, but Hindi is very inflected, um, and so it's a very important thing to learn about. What is inflection? Inflection is a word that will change its form based on its purpose in the sentence. Consider the pronoun in English I and its counterpart me. For example, I am walking. I is the subject of the sentence, right? The subject of the sentence is the person or thing who's doing something active. I am walking. I am the one walking. So we use I. Me is what we use when you are the object of the sentence, right? The object is the thing receiving the action. So for example, you hit me. So since I'm the object, I use me. I wouldn't say you hit I. I wouldn't say me am walking, right? In English, we have two pronouns. We have I and me. These are examples of inflection. Both of these words refer to the same person. They both refer to Joey, but they have a different form, whether it's the subject or the object of the sentence. You see the same thing in the third person with he and him, right? Two different words referring to the same person, but two different forms based on what the purpose of the word is. Like I said before, Hindi is much more inflected than English. So this concept of inflection and the fact that words can change their form is going to have to be something you're thinking about as you learn Hindi. A good example is मैं ठीक हूँ. We talked about this last time. The translation is I am okay. Someone asks you आप कैसे हो? How are you? You respond with मैं ठीक हूँ, right? I am okay. This मैं is the equivalent of I, right? So I am okay. I am the subject of the sentence. So we use मैं. Another common thing you might be saying in India is mujhe pani de do. Pani, if you don't know already, is the word for water. Dado is a verb. It's actually a command, which means give. And mujhe is what we would normally translate the English me. So in this case, we're saying me, water, give. And of course, in Hindi, the verb comes at the end of the sentence. So the translation of this sentence would be give water to me. We don't use may in this sentence because that would be saying give water to I. It doesn't make sense. Give water to me, right? So the Hindi equivalent of I is may, and the Hindi equivalent of me is mujhe. And I want to talk about a interesting example of this that I've learned in Hindi that is a little bit confusing. It's a really good example of inflection. It's something that I didn't understand about Hindi for a long time until I challenged myself to think about translations in a little more fluid way. In Hindi, if you want to say you like something, you say mujhe something pasand hai. Mujhe, for example, mujhe pani pasand hai. I like water. Mujhe kana is food. Mujhe kana pasand hai. I like food. But let's do a translation of this because I think this is really an interesting thing about Hindi. Mujhe, which will translate from now on as to me. This is the translation. Water. We know hey, this is a verb. We learned it in the last lesson, means is. And pasand means liked. So if you look at this, this sentence, to me, water liked is. Or if you rearrange things to make sense in English, to me, water is liked. If you asked a Hindi-speaking person who also spoke English to translate this sentence, this is what they would translate it as. I like water, right? And you can see that these two sentences are saying the same thing. To me, water is liked. I like water. But you can see how they're phrased differently. This first sentence right here, this could be thought of as maybe a passive construction, because instead of thinking about something I'm doing, I'm thinking about something that's actually happening to me, right? Instead of me being the subject of the sentence, I'm actually the object of the sentence. Water is liked to me. In English, we tend to favor more active constructions like this one below here. I like water. I'm the one doing the action. I am the subject of the sentence. I like water. Hindi uses a lot of passive constructions. So I want you to be challenged in that way, to think about the fact every time you hear mujhe, just remember that even though in an English sense we translate mujhe, I, sometimes, I want to encourage you to think literally about sentences. Because if you say mujhe pani pasand hai, you might be thinking you're saying I like water, but in reality you're saying to me water is liked. And that might not seem like a big difference now, but when you start using more complex sentences, when you start forming more complex thoughts, it's very important, right? Do I use may or do I use mujhe? How do I refer to myself? If I'm going to say I'm cold, what am I going to say? If I'm going to say I want water, if I'm going to say I like food, how do I say it? And how those things work are very important in Hindi. I'll give you one more example since I'm running out of time here, but I'll give you one more example. For example, if you want to say I'm hungry in Hindi, you say mujhe bhuk lag rahi hai. And this is kind of a complicated sentence, but bhuk, let's just do a translation here. Bhuk is hunger. This lag rahi, we're just going to translate as being felt. And then hey, we know, is just the verbal form of to be, so we'll say is. And mujhe, like I said before, we translate to me, right? Let's translate it. Hunger is being felt to me, right? Or maybe in a little more metaphorical sense, hunger is being felt by me, right? In English, we'd say I am hungry, very simple sentence. But in Hindi, you say mujhe bhuk lag rahi hai, right? The hunger is being felt to me. And so that non-literal translation is very difficult for some English speakers to grasp. So this idea of may and mujhe is very important, because in Hindi you're going to be saying things that don't really make sense in English. For example, if I told you that may means I and hun means am, you might be tempted to think you're going to say may something hun, right? Oops. We talked earlier about how may is I, hun, am, and you're just going to input something here, right? May hungry hun, may cold hun, right? But that's not how it works. You actually have to say mujhe bhuk lag rahi hai. The hunger is being felt to me. It's very strange, but we're going to be covering more things like this as we continue to learn Hindi. So I hope you kind of understand a little bit more about inflection, about what it means for a word to change its meaning, to change its form based on its meaning in the sentence. And also think about how what we say in English doesn't always have a direct translation in Hindi. And so the things we're going to be learning have to be thought of in a little more detail. So I'll see you guys in the next lesson.